Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk. Sit back and relax. It's time to talk technology.
Greetings, high flyers. It's time to stow your tray tables and put your seats into the upright positions because you're coming into land right where you need to be at Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Today, we've got a couple more stories from the realm of AI and robotics, blurring the line between humans and machine a little further. So, nothing to worry about there, folks, of course. We'll see how clever people are going to bring us a clearer picture of what it is to be an F1 driver. And we're going to be bringing the partners of chronic snorers some sweet relief. And not a minute too soon. But first, a warm welcome to the microphone to Mr. Matthew Dickerson.
How are you going today?
Oh, very well, thank you.
Excellent. Now I'm going to talk about something dear and near to your heart. I'm a bit of a fan in my businesses always to have people counters. And we use electronic means now, but I know that you've got a bit of experience with people
I've got experience in this, yeah. Now, I remember as a poor uni student sitting on a bench at a train station and counting the number of people getting off the train and going out at one gate and then going out another gate and then going up the stairs or whatever, and then people coming in. And so you had about 5 or 6 little clickers that you just had to press. And you just sat there for a day.
Right.
Pressing little clickers.
Highly paid work.
And, hey, were they going to argue with me if I was a couple out either way, give or take?
When you wanted a coffee break, you just went, okay, people.
All right,
right.
okay, I'm going to get a coffee. I'll be back in a minute. Yeah. So local councils used to employ poor people like me to just sit there and watch cars, go around roundabouts and things like that and hitting buttons.
Yeah, right.
I think, is there a technological solution for that these days?
Well, certainly there are a number of technology solutions, and I've just upgraded one, which I'm pretty impressed with so far, and I'll talk about that a little bit, but in my shops, I've typically had beam counters, so there's just a beam and people walk through that beam and it notices that you've got on and then off, and so that was kind of the first technology.
So you don't have to pay a person to press
Not
any
anymore,
buttons,
no,
right?
no, that's right. If I could find someone cheap enough, maybe. But so there's a beam technology, and then it advanced a little bit. So we used to use those in the early days. So we just have a reflector on one side and then a beam on the other side. The beam would cut, and then it would know that someone walked through there. Now, that means if you and I walked side by side, it was just one. So you're not getting everything, but it still gives you a bit of a comparison.
Yeah.
But then I got some beam counters that were 2 beams, so they actually had 2 beams separated by a couple of centimetres, so it actually gave you in traffic and out traffic, so you got an idea of when people were coming in and when people were going out, so you got a bit of dwell time, how long they were spending in the shop, so some fancy little algorithms to work out that sort of thing. So that seemed a bit better. And then not long ago I inherited some camera people counters, and they're a bit better. They sit above the door and they just basically use a camera and a bit of AI to go, that's a person. So if you and I walk in side by side, it still counts those. So I did a bit of a comparison to those versus the beam counters set up in the same shop, and they're more accurate. They certainly give you better data, so it's a slightly higher data count. But I've just had to upgrade one in one of my shops, and the new one I went for, I was talking to them about the camera counters I've got, and I'm pretty happy with those. I said, well, do you want our newest model? I said, sure, tell me about it. And what it does is pretty impressive. So it's a camera counter like the one I described, and it just watches out for people. But then it can work out just from body shapes an estimation of male or female. So suddenly you get a bit more of information about who's coming in your shop. Now, I must say all of these technologies I'm using conform with there's a certain privacy act around people counting where you can't store data about that, because I actually talked to the manufacturer once and said, I want to know when a person comes in and goes out, so I want you to record that person coming in and then that same person going out, so I know exactly how long every person spends. And
Mate,
said,
this is some high-density nerding out, totally.
It is.
But
they said they can't do that, because to do that would mean they'd have to record a picture of you coming in and keep that in memory until you went out again. Yeah, so I couldn't do that, but I can
that's against the law, yeah?
Yeah, that's if your technology conforms to the Privacy Act, then no, you can't do that. So that's fine, I accept that, but I can still get, using an algorithm, some dwell time in there, but male and female, because it's not identifying you as an individual, just identifies you're a male. And so I watched some of the technology, some of the actual footage of it, and then while it was doing it, and it's picking up live, real time, male, female, and I'm looking at it going, I think that's about right. That looks like a female. And then every now and again it would say unidentified. So you'd go, I can't work out that one because it's just a picture above their head. Yeah. But then it gets better still. it actually gives you the height of each person that comes in. So what do you want the height? Well, you don't really care about their height, but you care about their height if they're kids. So it then starts to make an estimation again, not perfect, but it says, okay, below this certain height, that's probably a child. So today you had 200 people come in your store, but 100 of those were kids. So you're probably not going to sell them, depending on what product you sell. You're not going to sell them much, but these adults, so that gives you a count of adults.
Yeah, right.
So that's pretty cool as well.
It's all very cool.
Prams, strollers, so you run a promotion where you're promoting things for Mother's Day. You might get people coming in with strollers and prams. You get a count of that. Did that increase when we did a promotion that wasn't for Mother's Day? So I just love the technology, including the one that I love the most is the traffic that walks past the front of the store. So you're now counting people coming in your store, but how many people could have come in your store? What percentage did you capture? Then you can run different advertising campaigns.
Amazing nerding out on people and demographics. Yeah, no, I love it. I do love it.
The only thing I haven't been able to work out a way that they can do is get age from it, try and estimate someone's age from a vertical camera shot. And I don't know how you do that. Maybe by the way they walk, maybe their gait. But no, they haven't got that one at this stage. That's the next one I've asked for.
And you're looking for some DNA reading on some of these people so you can know about ancestry as well?
Well, can you just show me their wallet to see if they've got money in there?
Okay, all righty. Well, enough of this fiffle-faff. It's time to get busy on the business you've all tuned in for. Now, here's a story for the lovers of the great outdoors, or, moreover, those who love bringing the great indoors to the great outdoors. Glampers, step right up as we bring you an easily portable, easily stowable outdoor cinema. Just the right thing for watching episodes of Bear Grylls in the great outdoors, Matt.
Bear Grylls? Why did you go to Bear Grylls?
Well, because he's an outdoorsy sort of person.
Yep, no, fair enough.
He's probably a little bit last decade or further, isn't he?
No, I do like Bear. I haven't heard much from Bear lately.
But I'm thinking if you're sitting outdoors and you're camping in the bush somewhere, what are you going to watch?
Watch Bear Grylls, obviously. That's right.
How are you going to survive the next week?
Yeah, that's right.
Without any food.
I do wish this was around when my kids were still at home because we used to do some outdoor cinema from time to time. We'd get the projector out and we'd find somewhere.
We used to do it too, just find something. Backyard was fun.
That's right. And you'd hang a sheet or you'd find somewhere on a fence or you'd do something, but it was never great quality. It was okay-ish.
But that's all part of the experience too.
Yeah, true. And, of course, drive-ins, I think there's about 6 drive-ins left across our state now. Yeah. So drive-ins are out. We used to love drive-ins when we were kids. You go out there and open the back tailgate on the station wagon and all lay down on a mattress in the back and watch the drive-in, watch the big screen. So that's all gone now. But what this is pretty cool, what I like about this, is it comes with a 144-inch inflatable screen and a pump, of course, because you might be there for a while pumping it up by your mouth. So it comes with its own inbuilt pump. So essentially you go out in the backyard or when you're camping, wherever you might be, you pull out this nice little fold-up bit of plastic, you plug it in, pump it up, and you've got your 144-inch screen. So you sit that down. It comes with some tie-downs so it doesn't blow away if it's a bit windy.
One of the problems with having a blanket was there was always creases in it. Always folds and stuff, and so you'd be staring at this funny grey mark in the middle of your screen every time.
That's right.
But this, I'm going to assume, because you're inflating it, you inflate it to
enough pressure that it's nice and flat. Yeah, exactly right. It comes with a projector as well, this particular kit. And so essentially you set up the projector, hook up to your phone, whatever you do, want to stream it, plug an SD card, micro SD card in, whatever method you want to run. That's all easy.
And you'll be the envy of the camping park. Yeah?
And the camping park or your neighbourhood or whatever. But I like the idea that you're probably going to save a bit of money as well because going to the pictures, going to the movies is still a bit expensive. Take the family along, you're paying for everyone. This, you just pay for this device once and then you can stream movies for pretty much free or pretty cost effective to stream those when you're doing it. I don't know how many friends you have to have around before you start to get to the stage where they're saying, hold on, you're now going into the stage where you're putting this on for a group, so you should be paying some licensing fees for that movie. For the family, a few kids, that's okay, but when the neighbourhood kids start gathering around, you end up with a crowd of 50. Should you start paying some licensing? Let's not go there. Just assume that you're doing it in the backyard. Family and friends, that's okay.
Keep it all above board.
That's right. So, good idea. And the whole idea of this one too, as well, is the projector is bright enough that you can do it outdoors and there might be a few street lights around or the moon maybe, and it's still bright enough that you can watch it, because that was the other problem we used to have. You'd hook up the projector in the pitch black lounge room, it was good, but you go outside where there's a bit of ambient light, not always so good, but this one's designed to do it. So
and if the people camping next to you have got their lights on, that's a problem, isn't it?
That is a problem. It's called the Laser Outdoor Cinema Bundle. So it's only $280 for the inflatable screen and the projector, so not too bad.
So hang on, you could go camping in a tent, not even with a caravan. Like I'm talking just tent really roughing it, and then you get to the top of the mountain and pull out your cinema screen.
That's right. Not sure you can say you're really roughing it when you've got your 144-inch screen that you watch some movie on. You watch Bear Grylls from the top of the mountain on.
But it's a possibility.
It is.
A few episodes ago, we brought you news of the first demonstration of boxing robots. Well, the action has stepped up a notch, folks. These guys are now kickboxing, and it's only months before they all turn on us, and we're all doomed to be robotically kickboxed to hell. Is that right, Matt?
I'm not sure that I'm excited about this because I had the same thoughts that you had.
Yeah, that's right.
Great, look at that.
What are we teaching you to do?
That's right. It's fascinating. Look, they're kicking each other. Hold on, they
Look
can
at how
stop
they bounce
kicking
back
each other.
up again. Yeah.
So this is still, we did talk about the kickboxing event. There were the 4 robots involved in a kickboxing match where they basically would go on like you would see humans do. And we talked about the fact that maybe it's better for robots to beat each other up than humans beating each other up. But this is really showing more about what they can do. This particular robot was made by a company called Unitree, Unitree, made over in China. 1.32 metres tall, 35 kilograms. So you think, oh, well, I could take that on, surely. But it's got some robotics behind it, so maybe I couldn't take it on. But it's really just showing what you can do. Some of it's done with autonomous control, some of it's done with a human controlling it. But some of the things that it can do, say a spin kick, that sort of thing is done with its own information. So, yes,
Right.
you don't need a controller
Okay, we're in trouble.
to go and do it. So go and
big roundhouse kick, yeah.
pick up my clothes off the floor, robot. No. And if you want me to
Coming
do
to
it,
the old chestnut, yeah?
that's right. If you want me to do it and you're going to argue with me, I'm just going to kick you in the head. So then you end up picking up the robot's clothes rather than vice versa. It's not helping me. I want the other way around. These are actually quite cheap. You can't get them here in Australia yet, but you can get them in China. 24,000 Australian dollars.
Is that all?
Yeah. So that's getting closer to where I can buy one for the house and have it pick up my clothes. But I just don't know that I want my robot being combat bred, if you like. Look at this robot. It can do great combat and have it in your house. Maybe if the kids were still home, that might be handy to keep them under control. But it's part of this whole ambition from China where they really want to lead the world in EVs. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
They want to lead the world in AI. We've already seen some presence from them in the AI world, but they also want to lead the world in robotics. Yeah, so
robotic sports, no less. So I wonder what's next. Baseball, soccer.
that'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I think we're probably there's probably been robot soccer already, but yeah. I would just wonder, what we're trying to do in robot sports.
Yeah, well, it's probably just really showing off what you can do.
It
I suppose
is,
is part of that.
Yeah, it's a way of showcasing.
That's right, and then being able to get back after a fall too. That's one thing that we've seen robots a bit like a turtle fall over and be on your back, and you can't get back up. Part of this is obviously that they can fall over and get back up and keep going. So,
well, what we don't want to be training them to do is how to kickbox you, knock you to the ground, and then jump on top of you and just go to town like UFC. You know how they go?
And you're looking at the umpire going, I'm tapping out. The other thing that's interesting is where they think this is going. So they think that some of the experts around this see that humanoid robots will be as widespread as smartphones within 2 decades. It's a pretty big call. Wow. Smartphones are pretty widespread. Yeah. Everyone's got a smartphone. Yeah. We're getting to the stage where everyone's got a humanoid robot. They've got their little helper with them. G'day, there's Matthew and Jimmy. Yeah. There's little Jimmy with him.
I know you go back and watch some of those old documentaries you were watching back in the mid-90s and early 2000s and their predictions of what life was going to be in 20 years. We're there now, 20 years later, right? And some of them were very, very close.
Yeah. So just a few years and we'll see them. Yeah. We'll see them in households. I can see households, maybe one per household, but everyone with their own robot like a smartphone.
With their own robot in their household telling them to pick up clothes.
That's right. And then
pick up your own clothes, please.
And then if you want that robot to pick up the clothes of the other person, then the two robots can brawl it out and whoever wins has to pick up the clothes. So, it sounds scary.
With AI now as sophisticated as it is, creating avatars for people that look and sound like the real deal is a job as easy as 1, 2, 3. And creating avatars for relatives who have passed on is changing how we handle death in the 21st century. Now, mate, is this just weird, or is it something that people are genuinely going to latch onto?
Well, people are doing it now, so it is a bit weird, but I remember, if I just talk about my personal experience here briefly, so my dad died about 25 years ago, my mum died about 7 years ago, and I remember, and they both lived long, healthy lives, they're both in their 80s, or well into their 80s, but I remember in the probably 3, maybe up to 6 months after both of them died, there'd be some time I'd be doing something with one of the kids and I'd go, oh, Mum, I'd love to see it. Oh, she's not there.
Yeah.
Or, gee, I used to ask Dad problems. Dad was a builder, and so there'd be some sort of thing I'd be doing around the house, or something I'd often ring Dad and say, oh, what sort of solution should I put in for this particular problem? So I wonder what to do. I'll just ring Dad. And I can't ring Dad anymore. So I get that you want to kind of have that conversation with people a little bit, but it's part of that processing grief that you realise you can't pick up the phone and ring them. And sometimes I'd actually ring up one of my siblings and say, I was just about to ring Mum and tell her this, I'll ring you instead. And, okay, thanks, I'm second choice here. But you're kind of dealing with that grief in that way. But there was a story that I read about one particular gentleman who was diagnosed with blood cancer. And so they'd given him less than a year. And look, he was early 80s, which people seem to live quite easily to these days. So his son said, well, Dad, I don't think I've spent enough time with you. So he went through a process where they got a company involved. It's called Storyfile, but there's a number of different ones out there. And they do a long interview. So they sit down with a video camera and they interview and have a range of questions they ask, and you answer all those questions. It might be just simple things. It might be deep and meaningful things, your relationship with your kids, you growing up. And then that gets turned into an avatar, and then you can access that anytime. Now, there's different levels of it. In this particular story, this gentleman chose a level that said, just let Dad answer questions that I've already asked. So then you can ask questions.
Because that was going to be my next question. How limiting is this?
Well, that you think that's a bit limiting, and that's kind of level 1, where it's just you ask a question, that there's an answer, and you've kind of got a video memory of Dad.
And so that's old technology. Yeah, you video someone and then you just have the video fast forward, or the DVD fast forward to the question that you're asking.
That's right. And so it's probably similar to watching home movies. Oh, there's Dad and there's Dad talking about something. But the next level above that, which is available to anyone who wants to pay a bit extra, is that it will then take video interviews, a range of questions. Then you can give it your social media profile, give it your emails, give it just things that you've written, if you've got some Word documents, that type of thing, and it ingests all that and it creates a version of you.
Wow.
And now you can say in 5 years' time, gee, Manly's playing well in the footy. What do you reckon they're going to do? How are they going to play? And you'll get an answer that your dad couldn't possibly have given at the time, because it's got all this information and it's answered in the same style. It's answered in the way, the word, the terminology, the phrasing, the same way, because it's got all that information, so it can use that. And I started thinking about this and I went, so what is a person? What is you? You are a makeup of just your memories and your personality, but if you feed all that in and you create something that gives the same answers, almost side by side while the person's still alive, what was the question, the answer you would have given to this question, and what would the answer this avatar gave? And if they're pretty much the same, you go, well, I've now just recreated that person. And so the whole essence of a human being, it's a bit scary. So
it is, isn't it? Yeah, this is really launching into some new territory.
It is, and you can understand how it's doing it. AI, just like a large language model, it's just taking a bunch of previous outputs and then saying, I learn what's the type of answer by all of these other outputs, so I'll just do similar ones to that.
And we already know that with some high media profile people, politicians and whatnot, that some of the video footage that we're going to see of them isn't going to be real footage due to AI. So if you can do that with someone who's in existence, why can't you do that with someone who has passed away?
Yeah, exactly right.
Oh.
So it's called grief tech. There are people out there who love it. There are some people out there who say it is bad things or does bad things for your processing of grief because it holds on longer than it should. But essentially it's happening out there right now as we speak. So it's a strange world we're moving into very quickly.
It'll be interesting to see whether it becomes popular culture. Well, with time, medical diagnostic tools just keep getting better and better and better. From the very first chest x-ray, which was about 130 years ago, we've progressed with CT scans now, ultrasonography, PET scans and MRI to identify disease early and more clearly, and with little to no mess to clean up. But the pressure that comes from handling the sheer volume of cases these days has not made the job any easier for doctors. And so it looks like another job for AI to solve, Matt.
Why not? let's have AI do some good things while it's dealing with grief and hanging on to something a bit longer. Let's see if we can keep people living a bit longer.
Diagnostics, yeah. So just with the amount of information, and we all know that emailing is much easier now, so we're all dealing with loads and loads of emails on a daily basis. It's a case of too much information almost. Can really slow down the apple cart.
It can indeed, and we see now some email apps, for example, will start to sort out email for us automatically.
Yeah.
Gives a summary of those emails. You get very funny summaries. So I've seen a few there where people send through a couple of things, and you can see where it's got the information, but it might be a bit of sarcasm in an answer.
Yeah,
and so it might be, oh, that's disgusting, meaning it's great, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And of course, the little summary gives you something.
So you've got to read the whole thing anyway.
Yeah, that's right, exactly right. But Leeds Teaching Hospital, so there's a number of these across the UK. They perform about 135,000 chest x-rays each year.
Yeah,
now, that's obviously a lot, and they've got a lot of doctors looking at those, but the problem is that you've got a backlog. You get your chest x-ray done, and then it's in a queue somewhere for a doctor to look at that. That might be, I'm not sure, a week, a month, who knows how long. And then finally, oh no, we've got to do something with this one because there's an issue here. Quick, let's get them in, but it's already been a couple of weeks or a month before you actually get to the point of saying we need to do something. So some way of processing those quicker is what we're after here. What they did is they basically, and we've seen this information before, feed a whole bunch of x-rays to AI and say, here are the ones you need to look out for. This is the information here. Here are the ones that are clear. Go and learn from those subsets. And then we've talked about this, AI has got better memory than you and I. So it can remember all these different instances of ones that are flags. And so, oh, here's a flag. So then what they're doing is they've taken basically 85 different clinical findings from a chest x-ray, and they say to AI, here are these chest x-rays, look at these for one of these 85. And then obviously if you think there's one, alert, and then a doctor comes along and has a look at it to see whether it's something that needs to be looked at for real. The whole idea is it's that first pass. Let's do that quickly. You get a chest x-ray, you're right, on you go. You didn't need to wait weeks for a doctor, and you didn't tie up a doctor who needs to look at the ones that are serious cases to then go and look at some further treatment from that perspective. Now, a false positive in this scenario is okay. Quick, doctor, have a look at this. Right, but look at this. No, that's okay. That's normal. I can see why AI might have picked that up. The one that worries me is the false negative, or if you like, the missed positive. I don't think it's a term. I've just made that up. But the false negative where they've missed one where, okay, everything was clear on that, but it's not. Now, that can happen with doctors as well. Yeah. And you see situations where doctors are humans. They can get tired. They can be worked too long. They can be distracted by something. They can miss things on an x-ray. Now, you hope not very often, but I'm sure it happens. But if AI, at least it's going to be consistent. And if it misses one, it's okay, now we know that you've missed that one. You need to learn that this little mark here actually does mean something. But I can see it more and more. And I don't think anyone's talking about replacing doctors. And even this trial that they're doing now, they keep talking about it's complementing doctor skills. It's supplementing the time that they've got and using it in the best possible way. So I think it's a good thing, and we'll see.
Yeah, I'm all in favour.
Yeah, I think we'll see more and more of this. This seems better than me than having them kickbox or use with grief tech. Use AI for something that's going to help us all.
For those of us who battle snorers each night, for shift workers who battle daytime hum from outside, just getting a decent 8 hours sleep is a trial all of its own. Thankfully, at last, technology has come to the rescue with some noise-cancelling headphones designed specifically for restless sleepers, Matt.
Yeah, there's a new product by Anker called the Soundcore Sleep A30, and these are earbuds as such, not so much earphones, but earbuds. They've made them thinner. They've given them about 9 hours battery life, so you tuck them away in your ears and you can listen to something if you like, a bit of white noise maybe, a bit of music or whatever, but more importantly, just cancelling that noise of a snorer. Now, what they do that I think is incredibly clever, because I was thinking a normal over-the-ear headphone that's got noise cancelling, which I find very good, there's a decent-sized microphone in it that picks it up to be able to then cancel the frequency coming in. And I thought, wow, these little tiny earbuds that are getting smaller and smaller, how good's the microphone going to be? How well can it cancel that? But what it actually does is it uses the charging case as the microphone to listen out for the noise that it wants to cancel.
That's clever.
That is. So you've got to have the charging case nearby. So you go to bed, you set the charging case on your nightstand beside the bed, for example, and then if there's a snorer there, then it picks it up in the charging case, and then the earbuds cancel out that noise, essentially. So, yeah, I thought that was a pretty clever way to do it, which then means they can reduce the size of the earbuds a little bit. So 9 hours battery life, as I mentioned, that gets you through most nights' sleep, I would have thought. You've got a range of silicone tips and foam tip sizes to basically fit in your ear because you want them a nice firm fit. The reviews I read basically said they're as comfortable as putting in normal buds that you might just put in your ear to block, something where you like a MotoGP rider might stick something in their ear just to block the noise, just the little foam buds. They basically seem like they're as comfortable as those because normally if you put an earbud in, they're a bit bulky and they stick out a bit. But these seem like just as if you are a sleeper that wakes up a bit easily and you might stick some little earplugs in. These seem like about the same size, but you can produce some noise, but it's cancelling that noise.
We've got some people out there who are getting quite excited right now.
That's right. Well, they are available now, and they're not ridiculously expensive, about $230 Australian, so that's not too bad.
Yeah.
That compares quite well to a range of other earbuds that are available out there. And unlike some things we talk about in this show, these are available now. They're not tomorrow technology, they're not next year technology. These are available now, a new product out
and
there.
There are products that help snorers with their condition, but if those snorers aren't using those products, you've still got the issue to deal with, right?
If you're laying beside
and so
them.
if you're able to manage your own situation, which is you can't get sleep because someone else is making the noise, then this is something that you're in a bit more control of.
Yeah, that's right. They've also got sleep tracking monitors, so they can actually monitor not only your sleep, but your sleep position during the night. So how long did I spend on my back, on my side, or my stomach even? So I don't like the stomach sleeping. It just seems like it's going to break your neck. If people sleep on their stomach, it looks uncomfortable.
Just
but
weird.
It is. So they've got a whole range of features there, but we're just getting so much technology with our wearables. Is this a wearable when you stick it in your ear? But
yeah, for sure it is.
Yeah, why not? So we are getting so much technology now and tracking so many things with our bodies.
And when you wake up, you can go, congratulations on your fantastic night's sleep. A soothing voice to help you get up in the morning.
That's right, yeah.
Motivate you to get going.
Well, you've done well already. You've started the day with a good night's sleep, so well done.
Capturing the action of Formula One racing is a tricky thing to do. Getting a decent picture that isn't too shaky or blurred while avoiding any chance of creating drag on the car is a very difficult thing. But Matt, Apple have come up with a really suitable solution.
Well, they've come up with something specifically for their movie that they've backed. So this is the entirely non-creative movie, in terms of the title, called F1. The movie. And I'm thinking they spent
how much on their writers?
That's right. Just the actors. You've got Brad Pitt in there. He's not a cheap actor, I'd imagine. But surely their marketing department, someone said, let's come up with a movie name that's really cool. And someone said F1, that's it. You've nailed it. So the question I have then is the sequel called F2? Because that's a problem, because there is Formula 2, which is a stepping stone to Formula 1. So that gets very confusing for people. But before I get into what Apple have done with that, I want to go back and talk about Peter Williamson. Now, Peter's got a special place in my heart because Peter Williamson was the driver of the Toyota Sleeker in the Hardy-Ferodo 1000.
Hardy-Ferodo 1000. That sounds like it's a long time ago. I remember that in the early 80s and late 70s.
Yep, 1979.
Yeah.
Peter Williamson's Toyota Sleeker was the very first vehicle in the world to have an in-car camera mounted as part of a race. So Channel 7 at the time came up with this revolutionary idea. I remember seeing some footage about it, the person talking about the technology and the engineers been working on it, and they had it in the car. Now,
it didn't have a person sitting in the passenger seat holding on a camera, did it?
It was almost that, because the camera they had mounted in there was a normal studio camera, like the size of it. They had these big brackets that were sitting in the passenger seat, big brackets mounting this huge big camera inside. And for those who don't watch Hardy-Ferodo, or now called the Bathurst 1000, they're sedans. They're not a Formula 1 style car. They're sedans. So if
this guy wanted to look out the left-hand window...
There's a big camera there that was blocking it. And the footage wasn't too bad. But what they did, so the way they developed that technology in 1979 was they had a helicopter that would hover as the car drove around the track, that would essentially follow them in the air, loosely follow them, because it could only transmit a short distance. So they were transmitting from there to the helicopter back down to the base station, and then back out to the footage. But for the footage that it was, compared to the normal footage of camera technology at the time, it wasn't too bad. So we pioneered that here in Australia, and Bath is not far from where we are today. So that was fantastic. So, and they had a microphone, which I love as well. You see now when you talk to drivers as they're driving along, you think they're doing incredible speeds through these various tight corners, and you're just having
chatting about the weather
away.
as they go.
Unbelievable. So then over in America, the Daytona 500, the CBS had the broadcast rights at that stage. So in 1981, took them a couple of years, but they basically had a lend of the technology from Channel 7. They talked to Channel 7 and said, we'll do the same thing. Formula One at the time was a bit slow to pick up on all this, but there are a couple of reasons for this. They talked about the idea of putting some cameras in Formula One cars. Now, you don't have the opportunity in a Formula One car, an open wheel, and not like a sedan to mount a big camera. So they had developed the camera technology, and then they had it as a little wing above the air intake, which sits above the driver's head. And the teams didn't want it for two reasons. One, it added weight and air resistance to their car.
Yeah, I was going to say aerodynamics is an issue, isn't it?
That's right.
And they are measuring everything to the millimetre or smaller.
And to the thousandth of a second. So the team said, we don't want that. But the second reason they didn't want it is because having a camera mounted above the driver's head looking forward, they could then have everyone seeing exactly what the driver was doing. When were they changing gears? How were they cornering?
Giving too much away.
Exactly right. So none of the teams wanted it. So you would have thought with a sport like Formula One that has millions of people around the world watching it, surely they'd be straight onto this technology. But no, it took them till 1986. Nigel Mansell in the British Grand Prix in 1986 was the first driver to have this. And the only way they got the teams to agree to it in the end was they said, we have enough money, which seems crazy for Formula One, but we have enough money to put a camera in every car. But we're going to put the mount and the weight of a camera in every car so there's no disadvantage to any team. And then we'll rotate the camera around to different teams so everyone will have a go of it. So in the early days, it would be on one or two cars, a few more cars. Now, of course, you've got different angles, like you've got so many different angles from the car itself when you're watching Formula One. But getting back to the point of this story, eventually we'll get there, the quality of the footage that comes out of a Formula One race is nowhere near cinema-grade quality. Now, when Apple backed F1, the movie, then they said, well, we can't have that sort of quality footage because you're watching on the big screen in a cinema. You can't have that shaky
shaky, and it's lower quality anyway.
That's right. If there's a bit of sun coming in, then it suddenly gets blinded by the light. It can't adjust its aperture. So Apple said, well, this is a chance for us to show off our technology. So they took the standard lens from an iPhone Pro. They took the standard processing chip from an iPhone Pro, and they basically said, we're going to set up that on some cars and basically use that as the basis for a camera on the car, cinema-grade quality. Wow. And so they did that, and the quality, I mean, I've seen some of the trailers, the quality that you get is cinema quality. It's not a shaky little blurry version of what you might get.
Are they using AI to remove the shake, or is there shock absorbers or something in there?
Yeah, they haven't actually released exact information about that. I imagine they're using some AI to piece that together, because you can do that now when you've got the phone and you want to record something while you're moving along, running on a push bike, whatever. You can get some stabilization technology put on, and that's not with some little shock absorbers that suddenly get added to the camera. That is using some AI to basically take out the shake out of it. So I imagine they're doing that, but I couldn't find information exactly on that. It'd be on some sort of rubber-mounted mount anyway, or rubber sort of absorber mount anyway. But I think in general, it's really just showing off, hey, look what we can do. Now, it's not an iPhone. They haven't got an iPhone hanging off the side. That's too big. But it's basically the innards of an iPhone built into something aerodynamic and showing off what they can do. So, and look, we've seen movies that have been completely shot with camera smartphones. So I think there was the Odyssey, Odyssey was done with IMAX. Tangerine, that's right. There was Tangerine back in 2015 that was done entirely on an iPhone. You've got 28 years later, it was shot this year entirely on iPhone. I've seen low-budget movies done entirely with smartphones. So they're pretty good as long as it's enough light. I think that's the big thing there. If you've got studio-quality light, you can normally do it. But, when you look at the trailers for F1, the movie, have a look at the footage that's coming from the cars, and that's all done with the same components that you've got on an iPhone Pro.
Amazing. While tech boffins tangle with software and hardware to make their robots move and respond more and more like humans these days, other human qualities still have some way to go. Rubberized skin, for example, up to this point, has allowed a comfortable barrier between artificial and biological beings and makes us feel a little bit more comfortable about things not quite being human enough. But Matt, the line is about to be blurred with a new human quality synthetic skin for robots.
They're getting closer and closer to
Yeah.
being us, aren't they? You start to download the grief tech from someone, you give them a body that looks the same, and suddenly you've got Dad back in the house.
Yeah,
and pick up the clothes where your Dad, and then he kickboxes you to the head. So the University...
Oh, we're disappearing down a hole.
That's right. The University of Cambridge and the University College in London have got a new hydrogel, and this is capable of multiple stimuli, including touch, pressure, temperature, and damage. So this has got, it sounds like human skin and nerves, because it's got this hydrogel, if you've got something that's shaped like a hand, for example, 860,000 conductive pathways. So in the old days, and when I say the old days, yesterday, traditional robotic skin had different sensors. So you'd have a sensor for temperature, for example, or a sensor for pressure, and you'd have them almost side by side, close together, and then you'd basically try and get the information back to the robot to say what was happening there. But you had an opportunity there for a bit of crosstalk because you'd get some interference for these different signals, but also there'd be one part that would be pressure and one part that would be temperature, and so you might miss that little part of it. This hydrogel, though, which is a soft, stretchable type skin, basically, as it's a conductive material, can pick up all of those different ones in one go, just like human skin. Like we're pretty clever, human body.
Amazing.
So it is quite impressive. Now, the researchers have cast the material in different shapes, so they can do it like a hand, for example, a foot, a leg, whatever shape you want, and you still get those conductive capabilities, so you can still pick up temperature, pressure, etc. Now, I can think this is really handy because if you've got a robot in the kitchen, for example, and the robot just picks up something off the stove and takes it over to the sink and washes it, you go, you kind of might get a false sense of security that you can do the same thing, and you pick it up, oh, that's hot, I've just burnt my hand, but the robot didn't feel that. But you start to build robots with feelings built in, suddenly you can realise that you pick something up, no, that's hot, and there might be a sensor that goes off and says, don't pick up that, that's hot, or the pressure, there might be something that's got a bit too much pressure. If you're trying to lift something up and there's too much pressure there, so I can say, no, this is too heavy for you.
So many things that we take for granted as humans, just because of the nature of being human. And I can just imagine there are probably enormous applications for this.
Enormous.
But it's just very alarming that we've gotten so good at mimicking the human form and the human being.
That is the scary part.
We're now at this stage where we're ready to blur the line almost completely.
And the next part, which I think they're not there yet, but this is the potential for this research, when you talk about prosthetics.
Yeah.
So you get a prosthetic hand, arm, foot, leg, whatever it might be. If you can somehow get that in now, whether you can get that back into your nervous system or just have some sort of sensors going off to let you know about it, that might be something. Because, again, I can imagine someone with a prosthetic hand could pick up something hot and they don't feel it because their hand's got no feeling in it.
Pressure's a big one. Like I've seen primitive prosthetic arms, robotic arms that go to pick up an egg. And, there's only the power grip. So...
And that's the test, isn't it? The egg is the test.
Yeah.
You pick up an egg.
Yep.
If you can get that right with the right pressure, then, you can start to do a lot more. So
but also, manipulating little sewing needles and things like that. You've got to have that fine precision grip.
Yeah.
And that requires pressure sensors.
Yep.
And so maybe not temperature as you're talking about, but, this human form is a very, very complex one. And to be able to mimic it is mind-boggling completely.
And we're finding whole scientific projects done to mimic one part of it. So, we are pretty clever. Let's pat ourselves on the back. We're okay,
Well done, team. With the global population approaching 9 billion, the density of people on the planet still holds no guarantee of companionship for many. And so AI companions are proving more and more popular these days, Matt.
Apps like Replika, spelt with a K, Replika, Chai, Chai, Character.ai, I'm not familiar with them, but these are some of the apps out there, some companion apps that are basically being companions for people. So those three there have been downloaded 10 million times on the Google Play Store alone.
And we're talking about avatars being created where you're able to control the sort of person you want to meet or know.
Yeah, that's right.
And then that person takes on a life of their own, but they're just a an avatar.
They're your best friend forever. You can control the friend and get your friend to do what you want them to do, but be a companion.
And what constitutes a companion? Someone who you can talk to, and someone hopefully who will talk back to you, and stimulate some conversation, and that restores the human condition. I think this is a good thing, but yeah, it's just weird for me.
Well, users are seeking these AI companions for therapy. Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Tutoring, yeah, that's good. Empathy, romance, just someone to talk to without judgment. So a whole range of different things they're being used for. And I think the psychologists around the world are a little bit torn between these. On one hand, they're talking about the fact that it might help improve real-world relationships. They've got to have some form of relationship. They might help them show a bit of empathy, maybe help them overcome social inhibitions. But then some people believe that when people start to get comfortable with these AI companions, they do start to become maybe a bit more distant from society because they're happy in their home with their AI companion. Now, when you start to combine that with a physical version of this, or with a robot that you can talk to all day, you might just start to become completely cut off from the rest of society. But then, as we talked about before with the grief tech, what is a person? Is it the end of the world that you're having a conversation with someone that gives you answers back? And I find myself doing that when I use ChatGPT. Sometimes I'll pick up an error and I go, oh, thank you, Matthew. Well picked up on that particular error there. And you go, oh, thanks very much. I got a compliment from Chat. But they're always very positive. I don't know that Chat's ever told me that I'm an idiot. Don't know that Chat's ever got up me for getting something wrong. It just gives me very much positive reinforcement. It makes me feel good about myself. So, maybe it's not so bad.
Provided the avatar isn't going to take you down some antisocial, antisocial, racist or otherwise misogynistic sort of path of life, provided it keeps you open, I guess. I think I'm okay with it.
Well,
but
the California Senate is a bit worried about it. They've actually passed a bill to regulate AI chatbots, requiring them to remind users they are not human and disclose data around handling things like suicide risks, for example. So it's one of the things that lawmakers are worried about it. Where's it all going? Where does it end up? I don't know where it's going to end up. But again, a bit like with the grief tech, if you can have a conversation with an app that seems like a human conversation, gives you answers. There are so many things that are passing the Turing test now, aren't they, where
that's right.
You can get confused as to whether you're talking to a human or AI. And so, poor old Alan Turing will be going, this is what I envisage with the Turing test, and wow, it's just gone so far.
We live in interesting times, don't we? We live in interesting times. The Trump brand has put its stamp on a diverse range of products, not least of all real estate and media. Trump's name has been on fragrances, meat products, bottled water and alcohol, just to name a few. But now the Trump family name has put their name on a whole line of mobile phones. Matt, tell me about this.
It just seems
the
like
Trump phone.
The worst case ever of the abuse of the power of an elected official.
Well, I think, is it even legal that they can do this?
Well, some things I question. I don't think you get away with it in Australia, but in America it seems to be all bets are off. So Donald Trump Jr., of course, is trading on good old dad. They've introduced Trump Mobile. They've got a mobile phone plan and a smartphone. The mobile phone plan is called the 47 plan. It just so happens that Donald Trump is the 47th president of the United States of America. So no linkage there, of course. It's just called the 47 plan for whatever reason. It's a plan. These are all white label services you see often with these. So there'll be a mobile operator. It might be T-Mobile, it might be Verizon. But basically they run this on the Liberty mobile network and then just label it as in Trump Mobile. But then they've also got a Trump phone that you can use on the Trump mobile network. And the Trump phone is called the T1, so Trump One, I guess, a bit like Air Force One maybe. And it's advertised as made in America because guess what? You're making America great again with your products.
Is it gold?
It's not gold. It should be gold, but I'm sure you can get it in a range of colours, but maybe it is. Maybe it is gold. Yeah, gold and red. But what they do advertise for it is they say, this is part of the Trump family's broader ambition to make America great again.
Of course it is.
So it just seems absolutely crazy they can get away with this. But one of the things it's
so what a wonderful thing that their heart's in the right place with that, and it's all about making America great again rather than lining their own pockets with cash.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, there's been some questions asked about this because they say the T1 is made in America. Now, some experts have questioned that and they said, so can you show me the chips that are in this that are made in America? Because We don't know any chip manufacturers in America, so surely you've had to get the chips from somewhere. Are the tariffs being imposed on those chips that you're getting from somewhere, which may well be China, may well be somewhere where they've got some high tariffs on there. So I wouldn't surprise me at all that Trump just passes an executive order to say the tariffs apply to everyone except for the Trump mobile, because that's really made in America. Maybe it's assembled in America, who knows, but I can't see many of those components, screens and chips, being actually made in America.
But it's less about fact and more about feels. If people feel like it's made in America, then that is all that matters.
That's right. It is completely blurring the lines in my mind between political branding and consumer products, and I don't think Trump would have any problem with that whatsoever. Just to me, I just couldn't live with myself doing that, just abusing the position I was in. But apparently it's all okay.
So can you buy these phones elsewhere in the world?
I don't think so. I think they're just running on that white label service under Liberty Mobile. And the phone itself, yeah, maybe the phone would work elsewhere, but really? Would you? Would you want to?
What's happening? And you can have... Can you still get a Trump steak? Can you still buy Trump brand vodka? I don't know. This is just on another list. I wonder how long it'll last for.
Yeah. Well, he did launch, of course, a cryptocurrency. If you remember, back last year, there was World Liberty Financial, a decentralized coin platform. So basically a cryptocurrency under the Trump brand. And look, when you've got 50% of the population that voted in America voting for Trump, you've probably got a fair few people who love the guy, and they'd love to have a T1
prepared
mobile.
To pay for your legal bills after all your criminal cases that you've had to go through. So.
That's right. Yeah, so I can't see it going across the world anywhere, but in America, sure, go for it.
He set a precedent, though. We'll wonder how many other presidents and prime ministers around the world will set up their own mobile phone telco. And that's all we have for you today, folks. Thankfully, we've run out of stories. No more Trump stories right now. We've reached the end of the rope, and we are dangling. Thanks for another cracking tech talk, though, Matt.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've got to go and practice my kickboxing to compete with my robot,
just to ready yourself,
or just find somewhere in the house that I can hide. So I'm not sure which to do.
Well, thank you for tuning in once again, ladies and gentlemen. Tech Talk with Matthew Dickinson is a labour of love brought to you in a user-friendly package to be consumed at your leisure. And I'm your host, James Eddy, wishing you a happy and productive week. Until next time, take care and we'll see you then.